Claiming Social Security at age 62 is one of the more common retirement decisions that people make. And honestly, I get why. I mean, you finally become eligible. You've been paying into the system for decades, and it just feels like, why should I wait? I want to go ahead and collect and start getting what's mine. Now, before we go any further, I want to be very clear about something. Claiming Social Security at age 62 is not necessarily a bad decision. For some people, it's absolutely the right decision. Where people tend to run into trouble isn't claiming early, it's in making the decision too quickly without fully understanding what the trade-offs are. And so today I want to talk through 3 situations where claiming at 62 isn't wrong, but where it deserves more thought than it usually gets. And the first situation is if you're healthy and expect to live a long life. So one of the most common things that people hear is that if you're going to live a long time, that you should delay Social Security. And there's a reason that idea exists. I mean, if you claim at 62, your benefit is permanently lower. And if you delay past your full retirement age, then your benefit's going to grow. It increases at 8% per year after full retirement age due to those delayed retirement credits, plus inflation adjustments. And on the surface, that seems pretty straightforward. I mean, living longer appears to favor waiting. But this is where the conversation often gets oversimplified, because when you claim earlier, you're not just choosing a smaller check, you're also getting money sooner. And that money can be used in different ways. I mean, it could be spent earlier in retirement, maybe going on a big vacation or things like that that you want to be able to do. It could also be saved. It could also be invested. And so the real question isn't just, how long do I expect to live? It's also, what am I realistically going to do with this money if I take it earlier? And also, how does it fit within the context of the rest of my retirement plan? And that's where the different things like investment returns and market risk and cash flow planning and all of this start to matter. There's also a couple of other practical issues that people sometimes overlook. One of them is the earnings test. So if you claim Social Security before your full retirement age, and if you're still working, then part or sometimes all of your benefit can be withheld if you earn over certain limits. Now, you do get credit for what was withheld in the form of a positive adjustment at your full retirement age, but this can surprise people earlier. If they file, let's say at 62 and they're still working, and then they find out they expected to get checks and didn't receive them. So it's important to understand how the earnings test works. Another thing is taxes. So in most states, Social Security isn't taxed at all at the state level. And federally, at most, only up to 85% can ever be subject to tax. Now, in practice, many people end up paying tax on even less than that. But it all depends on where the income comes from and how much income is coming from those different sources. So compared to pulling money from certain retirement accounts, Social Security can actually be a fairly tax-advantaged source of income. Now, if you're healthy and expect to live a long life, then claiming at 62 isn't automatically a mistake. It's just the trade-off. So you've got flexibility earlier on one side versus, certainty later on. You've got investment risk versus more guaranteed inflation adjusted income later on. And what many people underestimate is how valuable that guaranteed income becomes, especially later in life, like in your 80s or 90s, when market swings could really derail a plan. And simplicity just tends to matter more as people get older, I find. Now, the second situation is that if you don't actually need the income at age 62, and this one surprises a lot of people. I often hear, I don't really need the money, but I might as well take it. I mean, it's mine, right? And I understand that instinct. It feels responsible. It feels fair, quite frankly, but it skips over an important part of the decision. Social Security is a very unique form of income. It's guaranteed, it adjusts for inflation, it lasts as long as you do, and it's not tied to the market. And there really isn't another asset that works quite like that. So when someone claims early, even though they don't need the income, what they're really choosing is a smaller guaranteed income later in exchange for optional cash flow now. And that doesn't mean claiming early is necessarily wrong. It just means that the decision needs to be intentional. You want to be clear on what you're giving up and what you're getting in return. The third situation is if you're the higher earning spouse. So this is certainly where the decision really stops being individual. So when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse generally keeps the higher of the two Social Security benefits, not both. And because of that, the decision that the higher earning spouse makes doesn't just affect them, it can shape the survivor's income for the rest of their life. And if there's a large income difference in age gap, or if one spouse is likely to live much longer, then delaying can significantly increase the survivor benefit, and it can add a lot of stability later on. Now, that doesn't mean that delaying is automatically the right answer here either. I mean, health matters, cash flow matters, portfolio size matters, risk tolerance matters. The key is recognizing that this is a household decision, not just a personal one. Now, a lot of people focus on the break-even age, and I understand why. I mean, it feels concrete, but the break-even age depends on assumptions: returns, inflation, longevity, market performance. I mean, a more helpful question is often, what happens if things don't go the way I expect? What if markets underperform, or what if I live longer than I think, or what if I just want more simplicity later on in life? Retirement risk usually isn't about being perfectly right. It's about making decisions that you can live with, decisions that give you flexibility, that give you security and peace of mind, that you can sleep well at night with. And claiming Social Security at 62 isn't necessarily wrong. Again, for some people, it may very well be the best decision, but it's rarely a simple decision. The right answer depends on your health, your assets, your taxes, your spouse, and how you want your retirement to feel. If you're approaching claiming age, or even a few years away, it's worth stepping back and looking at Social Security within the context of your overall plan. I mean, that's where thoughtful planning adds the most value. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.